Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today is my 100th whiskey review, and it is very few of us who have videographic evidence of how much of a lush we are, but I count myself among the lucky few. So you might be wondering why Nikka from the barrel? It's a great whiskey. I mean, it's not a bad choice or anything, it's just maybe unexpected. And I wanted to kind of explain my thought process here. So I looked at all kinds of stuff. I looked at like $500 bottles. I looked at like $10 bottles. I looked at the best and the worst. And I thought about it, and I know this is going to sound corny, but I wanted to bring the channel kind of back to its roots. The entire point of why I started this channel was never about drinking rare or exclusive or hard to get whiskeys. It was always about drinking things that I found interesting, things that you could actually get your hands on, and whiskeys that we could actually drink together. If you look back at any of the early episodes, I think the first like 7 episodes or maybe even 10, I always told you what I was going to drink the next episode. And the reason I did that was because I wanted you to drink along with me. And so if you happen to watch till the end of last Wednesday's episode, I told you that I was going to be drinking the Nikka. And you know, I did that for a reason. I wanted you to drink with me this time. This has always been about my journey and me sharing this knowledge with you. So thank you for letting me kind of ramble on there for a minute. It's a special episode for me. I think I deserve it. So anyway, Nikka from the barrel. So if you've never heard of any real Japanese whiskey, maybe you have no real experience, or you didn't watch my Yamazaki video or whatever, there's a guy named Masataka Takasuru, and he is, I think I nailed that, he is kind of the father of Japanese whiskey, or grandfather at this point. He ended up going in 1918 over to Scotland to learn about whiskey, and he became a chemist at the University of Glasgow. And he was a chemist there, he got his degree, and then he went and apprenticed at 3 different distilleries and went back to Japan. Now, this was around 1920 when he got back. He had actually been newly married with a woman from Scotland named Jessie Roberta. And Jessie and him, basically, she came to support him. So the company that sent him over to Scotland actually had to change gears. Because of the Great Depression, they were not able to help him to start a distillery at that time. He ended up having to wait 3 or 4 years for a company to come along and ask him to, kind of help them build their distillery. At the time, he was still the only citizen of Japan who knew a thing about whiskey, or at least how to make it. And so he ended up building Yamazaki, and I'm sure you've all heard of that. So he had a kind of a 10-year contract with them, and at the end of that, he decided to go build his own distillery. And he ended up founding it in Yoichi, Japan. Now, this you've probably heard of Nikka prior to this episode. They have the coffee malt and a couple of other ones. And he ended up kind of making what he thought was his ideal whiskey. Apparently, he had actually picked out Yoichi a while prior to starting Yamazaki as the place that he thought would make the best whiskey, because it was very similar to Scotland in a lot of ways. So not only was he kind of the grandfather, but he was also kind of a genius, because a lot of people will think very fondly of the Nikka offerings. So let's speak of one of them here. Now, the Nikka from the barrel is a blended whiskey. It is bottled at 51.4%, and you might be wondering, what the heck is up with this bottle, right? This does not look like an elegant, it's not expensive, but an elegant kind of refined bottle. What it's supposed to be, and this is directly off their website, so I'm kind of not even entirely sure what it means. It's supposed to be a small block of whiskey. So it does almost kind of look like a brick or like a cinder block or something like that, but it's definitely like a unique shape. I remember when I bought this though, I was thinking, I'm like, this is like an aluminum cap. It's not even heavy duty. It's just very interesting, but I love it because they probably saved some money and they were able to offer it cheaper. Anyway, let's talk about the nosing and the tasting of this whiskey, because once again, I've rambled on and I deserve a drink. All right, let's go ahead and give this a nose. All right, so coming right off that other Glenmorangie episode, I did mention that everything was kind of floral and fruity and light. I would give a lot of the same characteristics to this, except there is a bit more there. It's got a little something extra to give it like a density. It's not, I wouldn't describe it as light. I would describe it as floral, and I would describe it as fruity, and I would describe it as sweet. Doesn't really have a bite to the nose, if that makes any sense, but it does give you an impression that there's a little bit of like a spice or something to it. So let's go ahead and give it a taste. Cheers. So, I'm going to ask you a question. Look at the color of that bottle. Sorry, look at the color of that whiskey. And just in your mind, think about what you think that probably tastes like. I think it tastes very woody. The color here is, pretty dark, of course. And usually you get that when something sat in the bottle for quite a while, unless there's other factors at play. I'd say wood is kind of one of the first things that you get, and then you kind of get a little bit of that spice that I was picking up in the nose. Outside of that, for me personally, I get kind of a caramel apple. Now this is going to be a bit of a tasting note here. So let's picture eating a caramel apple, and you've gotten down to the very center, and maybe a little bit of like that wooden stick that is peeking out. You've managed to gnaw on that a little bit. That has some semblance to what this tastes like. I know it's a little weird, but that's what comes to my mind. So, my opinion. All right, I'm gonna have another sip, so give me one sec. Now, there is a little bit more to do with that spice there, but honestly, I'm having a little tough time kind of expressing what that tastes like. It's during the second, and this is probably like the third or fourth time I've had a sip of this filming this episode. The spice does start to come forward more so than the wood, but I guarantee you the first time that you take that sip, it's what you're gonna taste. Anyway, let's talk overall of this whiskey. I picked it for my 100th review. It was #1 from Whiskey Advocate for 2018. And in general, I don't think too many people would speak poorly of this whiskey. I think at $65, this is something that you should buy. I think that you should probably potentially keep it on hand. And the reason I'm going to say that is that most people have not had Japanese whiskeys. If you have friends come to your house and they have never tasted one, you can offer them a Japanese whiskey. It's going to be something impressive for them, and it's only going to cost you $65, as opposed to most other whiskeys from Japan are going to be easily twice that price. So I think this is a very good buy it, and potentially something that I wouldn't quite give it a stock it. I'd say you probably might end up buying this a couple of times for yourself. But anyway, this has been the 100th review. And I just want to let you know that I think you guys are all awesome. I think that the way this channel has gone has been fantastic. I'm probably more motivated than ever to keep going. I'll be perfectly frank with you. Sometime around end of 2018, I was considering stopping the channel. Not for any real reason other than like I got a promotion, I was super busy, and I've got a lot invested in the quality of this channel, and I wanted to make sure I could continue that. And when I was considering that I couldn't, the logical conclusion was, hey, maybe I should stop doing the channel. I will not be stopping the channel anytime soon. You'll be seeing episode number 200 real soon. So this will keep going, I will keep going, and we will keep going together. So thank you very much for 100 episodes of reviews and plenty more ancillary type of episodes as well. And I hope you have a great rest of your night. Cheers.